The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday in the Riv, the beginning of another week.
And it's time for a hooray, we did it again.
Yeah.
We're up to 28 or 29 shootings in Fall River. Our tourist director needs to know that. Oh, wait, we don't have one.
Yeah. And we don't have any tourism either, so it's really not a waste of We don't have somebody being paid for doing nothing, but again.
Oh, no, we have a lot of people being paid to do nothing, but that's another story.
I mean, in that particular capacity.
Yes, I know.
Right? You know, I've never been in favor of a tourism director. So, as I said, if this was Newport or the Cape, you can have a tourism director. They'll never, let the companies advertise for themselves. And we'll leave it at that. And it's getting close. I guess there was news about Gen Andrade this morning. I got a call about her.
Oh, yes, there is.
Yeah, there's some big news about her. And even Hebert was mentioned, I think. And somebody, I think they from what I've been told, they were... he may have to testify because she's being retried, I guess.
Well, the judge ordered a status deadline on Gen Andrade's case. So Judge Woodlock filed several orders. So he filed orders last week in the Jasiel Correa and co-defendant Gen Andrade, including giving attorneys a status deadline in Andrade's pending criminal case. Woodlock also denied, without prejudice, Correa's defense attorney, Kevin Reddington's request to withdraw. He's requiring Reddington to be there at the sentencing. Because if he decides to use, ineffective counsel, which is about the only grounds for appeal that he has, Woodlock, if you remember correctly, during that trial, congratulated both attorneys, Kevin Reddington and the U.S. attorney, what's his name, Haber, on such a great job they both did on representing the state and representing the client. So that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting if they retry it, because I think he's going to throw the book at it. This is not the first time she's withdrawn a plea deal.
Right. Now, they have until August 6th to file the status reports on Andrade's criminal case and provide a tentative trial date if no other definitive alternative resolution of the matter has been reached by the time of the status report is due. So, in other words, if they don't come to an agreement that she serves, even 3 months or 3 days or whatever the case may be, they're going to have to go to trial.
Yeah, and then she'll probably have she'll probably get a stiffer sentence if she gets retried and convicted.
Oh, exactly.
I mean she's in a catch-22 here. She's screwed, but the problem with her is she doesn't want to serve time. She doesn't want to go to jail. She passed out when they arrested Jasiel. Imagine her in an orange jumpsuit. I don't, she'll have a nervous breakdown. But
well, here's the thing: the U.S. attorney has an option, as does Gen Andrade. Okay, it can go to trial, or the U.S. attorney could take the stance that they're not going to retry her. In which case, it would be dismissed, and she'll walk. Now, if she walks, the public is going to be very upset. They're upset right now. They're upset right now with Costa and with Camara. They're upset that they got no time. And they firmly believe they should have gotten time. And for Costa to get, home confinement with him being able to be out of the house from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., he's in his own business. He runs his business. Guess what? That's not a restriction. He can be out of his house doing anything but business, and it wouldn't stop him because guess what? He runs his own business. And I also think that those home confinement sentences were too weak. By giving them the ability to be out of the house from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. was too much. You know what? You can be out of the house from 9 to 5. End of story. That's it. No more, no less.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you one thing. I do not think she's walking because Woodlock made it pretty clear in his sentencing of those two, which, people can agree or disagree. I guess the other perspective on the other side is that they got rewarded for their cooperation because they were instrumental in the judge's opinion, and I think his opinion has a lot more merit than mine because the guy's been doing it for 30 years and he's a judge. Said they were instrumental in securing the conviction, but it's kind of like the feds. Feds lose a lot of leverage if you make a deal with the feds and you still get a really stiff sentence. We all know that that's the way the feds operate. They get people to facing 40 years in jail, life in jail, and they roll over on a bigger fish, and they end up getting 10 years, 8 years, 6 years. So that's the name of the game. It's let's make a deal. I mean, yeah, I think it was Sammy the Bull Gravano got witness protection, and he had killed 5 or 6 people as a mafia hitman. So you can agree or disagree with it, but they want the big fish. They want the John Gottis. They want the Jasiel Correas. And as you said, she was a co-conspirator. She wasn't just one of the attached people that actually some of them lost money and some of them made a little money, but
Costa made the money. Camara lost the money.
She was instrumental in the operation. She's the one who said, you're part of the family now. You're, blah blah blah. She went out and secured bribes, and I think Woodlock made it very, very clear in his sentencing that he was not happy about what they did and failed in their duty as public officials. That's why most of the opinions, including mine, is that Jasiel's going to get some time and a pretty good amount of time. And if she doesn't make some kind of deal, I think it's going to be worse for her because the fact is that this judge is not happy. He has numerous times referred to how this was an injustice to the people of Fall River. It's unfortunate that some of the politicians in the Fall River don't look at it that way when they're sitting on reports and things. But she's in a difficult position. I do not see Woodlock letting her walk. I just don't see it because he was furious at the people who were at the top of this food chain. And let's face it, she was the number 2. She was the mini-me in this conspiracy. And I think he's not going to let her walk on a technicality. That's just my opinion, but that's the way I look at it.
True, but it's got to come before him to do that. If the U.S. attorney decides not to prosecute and not to move forward, I mean, he'll get some repercussions possibly from the judge, but the judge can't force him to prosecute.
Yeah, well,
I don't think the U.S. attorney, I don't think Hafer is that stupid. I don't think he's going to turn around and decide not to prosecute.
Hey, who knows what kind of judge? I know this guy's supposed to be a tough judge. I've talked to attorneys that I know that have actually litigated in front of him. He's pretty tough as far as sentence for the people and it looked like he wanted to be tough, but something, if the feds do that, who knows? They might upset him so much he'll say, okay, you wanted to let her walk off? I'm going to let Jasiel walk.
Right.
I mean, because you guys made me sit through this trial, You made me do all. We did all this to convict these people. Now you're going to let her walk on a technicality? Well, I'll give Jasiel 3 months home confinement. That's it. And not that I don't think he'd do that, because I think he's, you can tell by his demeanor and what he's articulated in the sentencing that's already been done, that he is not real happy with the kind of criminal activity that was going on in the city of Fall River. As a matter of fact, I think somebody referenced the fact that this was like, the old days in Chicago, and when they had this kind of corruption. You don't really see it at this level as much anymore. But we'll see. But that's big news, I guess. So everybody's going to be waiting for August 8th.
August 6th. That's my daughter's birthday.
Well, yeah. Well, it's not
kind of hard for me to forget now.
It's only a couple of weeks away, so let's see what happens. It's going to be very interesting. But I can tell you one thing: we'll be there.
Oh yes, no question about it. And it's going to be interesting to see, because shortly after that, about a little more than a month after that, Jasiel is going for sentencing.
Yes. That should be pretty good. Especially when he required Reddington to be there, because it's like,
right.
That should be pretty good. But hey, one thing about Fall River, we're always in the news for the wrong thing. So
I know, and we can never seem to get out of our own way.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And maybe that's a reason why people are writing letters to the editor saying that it's time for a new face in City Hall. You have to say what you feel, I guess. And there's been 2 letters so far to the editor that have said very clearly that it's time for a new face in City Hall, and maybe somebody else can do a better job. There was 1 letter in support of Paul Coogan. That was from Antonio Teixeira. And if you remember correctly, Antonio Teixeira was the same person who vehemently supported Jasiel Correa.
Yes.
So, he's batting 1,000 already. So, and I mean, I know Mr. Teixeira. I grew up with his kid and everything, and we were part of Boy Scouts together and everything else. And so, I don't have any disrespect towards him. We can disagree and not be disagreeable. So. I couldn't believe that he actually wrote that letter, though. But then again, based upon his track record, I guess it's real easy to do.
Yeah. Well, look, that's unless you're dealing with federal politics where they just don't care, they're just so partisan. But if people like this form of leadership or lack thereof, they're entitled to their opinion, but everybody has their own opinion, and these letters are framing it. I think that this mayor has proven that he is not a leader. To me, leadership is about making tough decisions, standing up and taking action. See, that's the problem. A leader has to be put in a position. A leader is put in a position oftentimes where you cannot wait to have committees and studies and a whole bunch of other things to provide cover before you make a decision, because they're critical times, and sometimes it means a decision in an environment where there really isn't any right or wrong that's been defined, but there are consequences for the action you take, i.e., and I will do to me, which is the most obvious, and there are numerous ones with his lack of ability to stand up, was the superintendent of schools. He allowed a hostile work environment to continue in the city of Fall River for months upon months upon months. And what did he do? He ducked. Yeah, he used the cover. He used the cover. It's a conflict of interest. I can't vote on it. Yeah, you can't vote on it.
You know what's
That's
interesting?
what he said, but that was a recommendation. But
Right.
the reality is, as the mayor of the city of Fall River, and with the city of Fall River having a sexual harassment policy, he could have stood up. He could have publicly stood up and said, I'm suspending this guy because he violated the city's policy, because I want to cease and stop this. I want a cease and desist on a toxic and hostile work environment. But did he do that? No. So people were subjected to this pathological abuser. Everywhere he went, he got run out of the city on a complaint. Brockton, Swampscott, there were complaints filed against him. The man is a serial abuser of women, of elderly people, of handicapped people. We've seen him in action. He even abuses the people of Fall River. You don't like his opinion? Move to Russia. Man, he's a walking train wreck. And he allowed that individual to stay. He didn't stand up like a leader and said, listen, if that gang of four who are now so embarrassed that three of them aren't even going to run, he couldn't stand up as a mayor and take the bulls by the horn and say, I'm not going to subject the people in the Fall River School Department to that kind of abuse any longer. Another minute longer, I am not going to subject them to that. I'm suspending them. I'm not going to deny them due process, but I'm going to suspend them. But we knew. You read letters on this show from people about the abuse. That's right. Read letters about what this individual did. And what did he do? He ran and hid. He wouldn't do it. I got to wait. I have to wait. I have to wait. Well, guess what? He waited with the superintendent of schools. He didn't, he's always waiting about something. He's waiting on a DCM director. He's waiting on the transcripts that he never requested. Another one he ducked. Department heads, superintendents of schools not doing their job. What kind of message does that send to the rest of that organization? Same thing with DCM, department heads doing things. I'm not even suggesting what action to take, but take some damn action. Don't try to say, wait, I got to wait. Well, that's not what leaders do. Sometimes you have the luxury of waiting, but as a leader, you have to make a decision. There are times when you have to step up to the plate and protect the workers and the citizens of Fall River. And in my opinion, every time he had the opportunity to do so, he did not do it.
I agree. Totally agree with you. 100%. And, what do they say? It rots from the head down.
Yeah.
The fish rots from the head down. Is that right? And that's what's happening. Now, what's interesting is, while we're on DCM, remember the infamous $500 coffee pot?
Yeah.
Guess where it was bought from? W.B. Mason.
W.B. Mason? Really?
Yeah. A stationary supply company.
I never knew it. I didn't know they sold coffee pots.
I didn't know they sold coffee pots either. But, hey, I guess they do. But guess
Is
what?
that considered an office instrument?
I guess so. But guess what? According to statements made, that coffee pot was ordered previously. And it wasn't a recent purchase. But the purchase order, which just became public, shows that it was ordered in March. How old is that?
Well,
so again, the people are being deceived.
Yeah. How many records have we seen that show up later on, and they say, oh, all of a sudden, oh yeah, wait a minute, well, we this was not ordered, and there again, This is where leadership becomes critical in the city of Fall River. How do you expect the employees to work and give maximum effort if they're working in a toxic environment? How do you expect the city to run effectively when you allow department heads to act inappropriately without some kind of accountability? That's what a leader is supposed to do. Police officers, in a scene of a school shooting, can't wait till the next day to have a bunch of people sit around a table and say, well, what should be our next move? When you pull up to a fire and they're hanging out windows, you have to make errors. Even if you're going to make an error, you got to do something. You have to make an error of commission. Do something, not omission, and do nothing. You can't stand around and ask for everybody's opinion. And the mayor of the city is the chief operating officer here. He is the man. The buck stops there in the city of Fall River. And every time we've had a situation where he could have interceded and made people's lives, employees of the city's lives, a little bit better by removing someone who was creating a terrible work environment, or by sending a message to all department heads that you will be held accountable, what has he done? He's used some kind of pathetic excuse not to do the job of a leader. He wants to run the city by consensus. And if that's the case, maybe that's why you were a vice principal. Maybe you should be a vice mayor.
If we had one.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's getting to be a little ridiculous and a little far-fetched at this point. I'm looking here back at our July 4th celebration. On July 14th, 10 days later, Paul Coogan sends a letter to the editor saying how wonderful it is. This year, the city of Fall River was able to return to one of our favorite traditions, the 4th of July fireworks at the waterfront. The celebration was the largest event we have hosted during my term of office. There was only one event. That's the only event. So you can't say the largest event during your term of office while he's right by omission again, because there was no event in the previous year.
Yeah. Depends on your perspective. You could also say it was the smallest event because it's the only event.
Because it's the only event, so we don't know. Right. So we don't know. But, for him to have to write a letter for his own glorification, because he didn't write about the city, he wrote about the event, and he wrote about what he did. So it makes it very interesting. But he says, above all, I am writing to thank the residents who came out to celebrate with us on the 4th. I am so honored to serve as mayor of Fall River, and nights like the 4th only make me more proud of my city. Yeah,
well, CJ, that's platitudes.
It is.
They love to lay the platitudes on. But the problem is with this city, the reason this city has continued to erode before our very eyes, and while the budget grows, the city decays, is because there's no accountability and no consequences for people getting very large salaries not doing their job. And that's the problem. How many times on this show have we talked about, if your neighbor is a nice guy, you can go over and have a burger with him, or invite him over to your yard for a burger. But if the guy can't fix your car and he's a mechanic, you shouldn't bring your car to him just because he's a nice guy. See, that's the problem. Paul is a great ceremonial mayor. If we had the E charter, if we had the Worcester charter, he would be a great mayor. Ribbon cutter, Mr. Nice Guy,
baby shaker.
Yeah. When you're running a city like this, especially a city that has numerous problems, crime, and you gotta take the bull by the horns, and you gotta make tough decisions. And I think he came, and it may be not his fault. He came from an environment where everybody just did whatever the superintendent or the principal told them, and that's the way he's worked in a place that gets money regardless of performance. We got all kinds of people over on the school department making big money, and we don't know to this day what's going on. But you know something? The city's never going to improve. We're never going to move in a direction that's going to help the taxpayers and the regular people of Fall River. You know, what he should be working for is to try to get this city moving forward so a few of the people that are living in a 3-decker may be able to get on a cruise ship to Montreal instead of just trying to pay their bills that you constantly increase.
I agree. Well, you know, while we're talking about the taxpayer and what's going on, did you see what Providence, Rhode Island did?
Oh, yeah, no tax increase.
No tax increase. Cut the budget. Now, how can a larger city than Fall River, much larger than Fall River, how can a larger city than Fall River be able to cut the budget, not raise taxes, increase public safety? I don't understand it. Providence can do it. You know, Jasiel was trying to make Fall River a lot like Providence. Maybe that's what he was shooting for. I'd like to know. But obviously, Paul Coogan and Mary Sahadi can't do it, because remember what Mary Sahadi said. You can expect the tax increase every year. And then she turned around and recently said, and now we're going to bring back more people to work, more employees. Imagine that.
Expand government. Wow, what a surprise, right? You know, and that's what they do best, and they blame everything but themselves. And this is the problem. Like you said, Providence is a very, very large city. Yet, I don't know what Elorza had as his impetus, but that's what we should do. Maybe some of these cities are going back to the old days where they tried to tighten their budgets, where they had some compassion for the taxpayer and the citizens that are not living on huge salaries. You know, so, you know, when we don't have to look that far down the road. We look down 15 minutes down the road to Providence, and as you said, Providence is, you know, much larger than Fall River. They have a much larger fire department, police department, and all the other departments. Yet,
and they have true fire-based EMS.
Yeah, and have had for decades. Right. And guess what? But Elorza took the bull by the horns finally. And guess what? Kudos to him. That's leadership.
No question about that. No question about that. You cannot put any question about. And I'm sure that the taxpayers of the city of were quite happy with the fact that they didn't get a tax increase for this upcoming fiscal year. But we can't say that in Fall River because Paul and his vast number of minions wanted an increase, wanted that increase. So it's wonderful to be in Fall River, I guess, where taxes always go up, and we demand that they go up because, you know, I as a taxpayer don't want my taxes to go up. I don't know about others, but I don't want my taxes to go up. You want your taxes to go up, Chip?
Oh yeah, they went up. Yep, that's a given. You know that. Like Mary said, your taxes, your water fees, everything goes up. And I mean, the last mayor we had that attempted to do anything to rein it in was Bob Correa, and and you know it was.
And they gave him the boot.
Bad management style because he was doing the right thing.
The right thing, just the wrong way. That's right. We're out of time, everybody. As usual, we never have enough time on this show. I want to thank you for watching and allowing us to come into your home. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Be looking for what they're saying. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.